Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This is a note to all the paranoid people out in the audience, those who check behind shower curtains for the fear that there may be an axe murderer behind the curtain. If you find one, what's your plan? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot. Come on, call in with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. I love that lady, and I love that song. God bless America. Good morning, I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers that include Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service today, 734-6969. Right now, let's check. Do we have a Pledge of Allegiance person?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, is it you?
Yes, sir. Doug was going to do it this morning, but it seems like he had to catch a person at his store.
All right, well, fire away, my friend. Go ahead.
All right, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, my friend. And right now it's time for the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. You know what? You can get new flooring for Christmas. And also, they've got gift cards. It's all there at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. They can help. They will help at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this very first day of December. And yes, still going to be cold today. Looking at partly cloudy skies, high of 21 tonight, low of 3. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, high of 30 with an overnight low of 15. For Thursday, could be a heat wave, mostly cloudy, high of 40. And then for Friday, partly cloudy and 38. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, man, that sounds good. Maybe get up in the 40s by Thursday. Oh, that sounds good. Don't forget, thank you very much to our weather sponsor, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Yard. Don't forget 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-9411 for consignments and sale information. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy. The sale that works for you. Don't forget, sale day is Thursday this week at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You be there. We have got a lot of things to cover this morning. Some interesting people, too. Later on this morning, we're going to have Frosty Woldridge on. He's an old standby on our program. And then at 9:30, very interesting gentleman that's been on my program before, Dr. John Zamirek. And he's going to be talking about this Planned Parenthood shooting and maybe has some thoughts on it that you haven't heard before. And then, of course, at 10:06, Dr. History. And then at 10:32, I'm looking forward to my dear friend Dan Kish back in Washington, Washington, D.C., with the Institute for Energy Research, and he's going to lay it out in simplified language and not cover things up like Obama did this morning. What climate change and the agreements will mean to you and me, and most importantly, our billfolds. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh my goodness, they can clean anything. Now, you've got a short period of time here before Christmas dinner and all the relatives coming over, so you better get that tablecloth that got all stained up like an Appaloosa during Thanksgiving and have it cleaned today. Stop into Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, and by the way, don't forget Aunt Martha spilled all that gravy on your suit. Oh, you better get that clean too. Stop in at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Daryl's Cleaners, serving you. And along with that, I want to mention too, SafeLink Internet. You know, nobody does the job as good as they do, and the service is impeccable. We thank them very much. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, 18 years and counting. 677-8000, the number to call for your first month free plus free installation. No contract options, no credit checks, unlimited data. Yes-sirree. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. Give them a call today. I have been asking for your help, and this audience has always responded to me, and I just can't thank you enough for the kind of people you are. I honestly go to bed at night and say my prayers and say thank you for the great listeners and support that we have from our listeners. What we're going to have on December 16th, we're not going to have a lunch bunch for this month of October. That boys, I'm getting the game. This month of December. But what we are going to have is a Denny's Old-Fashioned Merry Christmas. It's going to be on December 16th, Wednesday, December 16th, and I'm going to be broadcasting my whole show there from 8 to 11, and we're going to have carolers singing Christmas carols from the Burley High School Choir. We're going to have Ken Mort down there with his sound system and singing and door prizes and Santa Claus and Loot in the Boot. I'm telling you, we're going to have all kinds of fun things at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. You can stop in anytime if you're hungry for the best of breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Denny's in Burley, or their new location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Boy, that is going to be some ripping good fun right there at Denny's. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you heard the news or not. In a sports note, he is done. Quitting. Finicio. Adios after this season. Kobe Bryant started as a teenager, actually, for the LA Lakers, and he has played all these years, and he's going to hang up his basketball shorts and say, that's it, I'm done after this season. He said, my body is worn out, my heart's still in the game, but my body's worn out, and he is having all kinds of problems, as are the rest of the Lakers and the Laker organization. Used to be the kingpin, if you will, of the NBA, and now at the bottom of the pickle barrel, and I just don't see any rebuilding there for quite some period of time. And I'm a basketball nut, but I don't see good things happening for the Lakers for quite a while, and Kobe Bryant retiring after this season. By the way, Colonel Dale at the Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley, says, hey, we've got books. You looking for a book? You looking for a certain kind of book? Westerns, fiction, whatever, they've got them all right there at the Book Plaza, along with gifts and jewelry. It's just a shopping mecca. You better stop into the Book Plaza with our dear friend Colonel Dale and the crew at 222 West 11th Street in Burley, and they wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas. I love saying that. Oh, I didn't ring the bell this morning. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's that time of the year. All right, here we go. I listened to as much as I had time for this morning to Obama's press conference, news conference in Paris. And, of course, it's in the afternoon hours over there. His rhetoric was, to me, and of course you know I don't like the man. I have never liked the man, and I can never support the man because of his ideologies. Obama's rhetoric is offensively stupid. Phrases like, we are building the future we want for our children. And we hope it's not too late to save the world, and the hour is almost upon us. Those were some of the phrases that this man, this foolish, ideological man, used this morning. And it was an affront to me. This uneducated and very, like I said, idealistic man is an affront to the honest truth of really what the problems are. And there are those in the audience, and I always get the criticisms by either unknown name or unknown phone number or a call. You idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. And then they hang up. I mean, these are real bright lights. The major crisis right now in this world, unless you've been under a rock, living in a cave, or in the Oval Office, the major crisis is terrorism. The major threat to you, me, our families, and our families' future is the encroaching cancer of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terroristic movements. And believe me, they are growing. Obama cannot, and everything I say on my show is my opinion, Obama can't and won't deal with problems that are ominous and real. He won't do it. Beheadings, burnings of human beings while they're alive, burying human beings alive. And this man is more worried about an ice glacier. Oh, and by the way, let me interject something here. When he goes and puts forth lies of 99.9% of the scientists in the world agree that everything is melting and burning up, that is a lie. That is a bald-faced lie. As a matter of fact and record, and I have talked to scientists in the Alaskan area, the ice is not melting. As a matter of fact, it's increasing. And for the 19th straight year, the Earth is cooling. Let me repeat that. For the 19th straight year, the Earth is cooling. Now, I want to ask you, my listeners, a question. And I want you to get up off the chair and go to the phone and answer this. Today, across the nation, here in the Magic Valley, across the Plain States, it's doggone cold. Do you want man? Do you want an administration? Do you want a president like Obama to destabilize, and I want to use that word again, destabilize God and his nature, and try to make the planet colder? Now think about that just for a minute. What would happen with man tinkering with the forces of God and nature to make the planet colder? This is not an oops. Got it too cold. Holy smokes. No food production in South America, no food production in Australia, no food production out of Argentina. Really a lack of food production for the United States. Things are too cold to grow. You and I had better realize that man is, like I had a dear friend of mine say one time, God has his hand on the thermostat. And for mankind, especially somebody like Obama, to say that they are going to exhaust all their efforts, like he said this morning in his speech, to climately control the world, that's scary. Do you really want it colder? Think about that. Crop production, people huddling in masses trying to keep warm, no money to buy energy because of the idiotic solar and wind and green power movement. Give me an answer to that. Do you want mankind to destabilize God and his nature and try to make the planet colder? This is your turn to voice your opinion. I want to hear it. While I'm waiting, I'm going to get some commercials in here. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They throw open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't you dare go away. And, of course, they've got all your heating and electrical needs, all your furnace filters to keep that furnace smiling in the basement and warming you up. So stop in today at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they always provide warm winters and cool summers. Really, really nice people over at Ramsey Heating and Electric. I've got some Merry Christmas spots I got to give you real quick. Caller, I'll be right there. Rogge Auction, Ron, Cade, Corey, and Jed, best doggone auctioneers around. And if you're selling your farm and ranch equipment, remember to call Rogge Auctions, 431-0074, wishing you a very Merry Christmas. As is our dear friend Fred Wood, Representative Fred Wood. We live in a blessed country, and we should be very blessed that God has been in our lives. Merry Christmas from Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I was just thinking as you was talking about this wonderful summit that our beloved president is there. Do you think that the people in that summit are stupid enough to believe anything that he says?
Yes.
I pray that they are smarter than that.
You know, Helen, here's a simple fact. I consider you a very well-educated lady, but also you're my friend. And these people around the world are being led not by the nose, but they're led by their billfolds. And they know that by attending these climate conferences and listening to the United States and our fearless leader say that we will provide underprivileged countries $3 billion, what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to walk away from it?
Of course not, but I would like to know where these many millions of dollars is coming from.
Oh, Helen, country. Helen, you know the answer to that. What's that?
Excuse my French.
I
just learned French.
Well, I don't want to hear French. I want to hear English, but I'll tell you one thing. It's going to be a big cost, a huge cost to you and I and every other American.
And our posterity for eons of time. What is the matter with that dimwit that's sitting in the White House?
Well, I don't think I could have said it any better. I may have changed some of the words, but I agree with you. Helen, you're always welcome. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
She is like a lot of people that are very upset about this. I've talked to people in the Midwest. I've talked to people on the East Coast. Oh, my goodness, some of the thoughts. You would think that a lot of the folks in the East Coast would be, your raving lunatics that are of the Democratic Party. Boy, there's a lot of them that are just absolutely incensed as to the stupidity of this administration. Your calls. Here's the question. Do you want to destabilize God and His nature and let man, especially this administration with Obama, try to make the planet colder? That's what they want to do. Give me a call, please, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I will say this before I do a commercial break. I am doggone sick and tired of being cold. I don't like being cold. I don't like having to worry about spending a lot of this money or money now that I want to try to phase out a lot of the things I'm doing and use my retirement funds just to keep warm. And for this idiot and his administration, I don't have any respect for the man, I'm sorry, to say that they want to have their hand on the thermostat and be in control, that really bothers me. Caller, I'll be right there. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And believe me, if you've got recuperation from an accident or recuperation from surgery or whatever it is, oh my goodness, they have all the great physical therapists working there to serve you, helping you get back to being you. Exercises, sports medicine, hydrotherapy, pool with the treadmill, everything to serve you. Call for an appointment today, please, at 670 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, serving you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Just recently, I received an email written by a scientist who wanted to get this out to people who really do things. And it was about the fact that global warming is a good thing because we can grow more tropical kind of plants. We can feed our people better. It's actually hard on a lot of the world when they can't have food, you know.
Well, Chris, let me ask you something. As a farmer and being in agriculture, tell us the effects of colder temperatures. Tell us the effect of mankind trying to change the thermostat and having and elongating a longer cooling process. Tell us about the effect it has on crops.
Well, for one thing, you put those little plants in the ground at a very precarious time of the year, and you pray like everything that we don't have frost. And
yes.
Then it drives up the price of the product if you have to replant it once. Then think about twice, because then the seeds start to disappear. And it means that at the harvest time, the production is considerably less. Well, you know, America is a wonderful country because we have food-producing areas in our entire United States, and there is no reason for anybody to be hungry here, and we export tons of it. But if other countries could export and grow their own food, they'd be better off. But that climate change thing is all in these radical people's minds.
Absolutely. And you know, here's my biggest fear, that at any time that man, lowly man, thinks that he can be better and supersede the wishes of God and God's nature, we are in a major problem.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say this, but George H. Bush, the younger Bush, our last president, he was all into this climate change thing. Well, you know what? If it's too hot in Texas, why doesn't he move? Well, Texas produces an awfully lot of food.
Amen. Chris, you're always welcome, and I really appreciate your call. I got others waiting, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Please have patience with me. That's something I need to reestablish in my life, is patience also. Anyway, don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and be sure and call for a hearing screening today. If you're going, Martha, what did he say? What? Or you're just missing out on the grandkids or whatever, hey, listen, it might be a medicinal problem. It might be a health problem. You never know what the problems may be. Please let Dr. Christine pick up, give you a hearing screening, and then an analysis of where you should be and what she can do to help. Don't forget, they're right across from the Minidoka Hospital emergency room, and the number to call for an appointment, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for your patience.
Not a problem, sir. Sorry about this morning, but when the wife calls, you got to go.
Yes.
Anyway, on the climate change. The climate's been changing ever since the world has been created.
That's exactly right.
Had we not had climate change, we'd probably still have dinosaurs roaming the earth eating us. Or there'd still be 30 feet of snow or ice where New York is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to change. We might not survive it, but the earth, the climate is going to change no matter what we do.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I got to stop you right there. I remember vividly in the 70s when the cover of Time magazine came out. I think it was 1974. I'll stand corrected on that if somebody has a copy. But I believe it was in 1974, and they said the new ice age is coming. Okay, but then all of a sudden you let the control freaks like Obama and other people, now it is we're going going to burn up and climate change, and we've got to control the thermostat, and we've got to make it colder. I don't buy into it. I find it nothing more than they're trying to control the populations of the world.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's nothing to do with the climate. In fact, the scientists have said we've dropped a few percents of a degree over the last 10 years on our average stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to change. And there's nothing we can do to stop it.
No, and I'll tell you something. I think if you have any religion or any basis of believing in God and His powerful hand on everything, how can you accept that mankind has a right or an ability to change the climate? And once it's done, Doug, will it be ever reversible?
No. But, that was just one point I wanted to bring up, because we'd have dinosaurs or we'd still have the Ice Age.
Well, we still have dinosaurs. Look at Nancy Pelosi. All right, buddy. See you later.
I'll leave you at that.
All right, buddy. Hey, caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away, I promise. You're up next on the call sheet. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness, they have all the equipment to get the job done right. Need dirt moved? You got to clean this up. You got to do this, that, or the other. They've got all the Bobcat skid steer loaders. They've got those big Doosan loaders. Holy smokes, at prices that you can't pass up. Lease or purchase. All the equipment is there for you at 3 locations: Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. The absolute best people are serving you with the equipment that you need at Barry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see those good folks today. They can and they will help you. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Zeb. I watched a little bit of that this morning myself, where he was spewing his regular stuff. And I thought, oh boy, this guy's really got some rhetoric going on here. He's totally delusional, and he has absolutely no understanding whatsoever of our climate and how the different the gases in our atmosphere affect the climate.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. I'm going to interrupt you, and I want you to answer a question. How could a lowly little senator from the state of Illinois, and that never had a degree in anything as far as climatology or the study of weather, etc., how come he is now revered as the most knowledgeable person in the world during the last 7 years on what's happening with meteorological studies and climate change, etc.? Where did he gain all of a sudden all of his vast knowledge?
Well, what I believe is he has been coached by this radical liberal agenda what to say to the people. And, there's still some people out there that believe that he is, the all-knowing, president that is going to save everybody.
Yeah, right.
That's what I think he believes. But the thing that affects our planet more than any singularity around is the sun, and that is governed by the amount of sunspots that are present upon the sun. Currently, we're in a low period of sunspot activity, which means that there's less radiation being ejected into space and less getting to the planet. So we don't get as much energy from the sun now as we do when there's a lot of sunspots. And that's what is the major effect of our temperatures. And the CO2 thing is such a farce. The largest component in the atmosphere that affects the weather is water vapor.
I appreciate your scientific approach on a lot of this, and I've got other calls that are waiting, but I want to tell you I appreciate your call on this. But the whole thing boils down to this. I really couldn't care less if somebody out in the audience is offended when I say this, because it's my opinion and it's my belief that God created a very perfect universe. And we are but just small pieces of sand on a beach. And any time that one man and his ideology steps forward and says he's going to save the world and change the climate, I get really afraid.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
all right, sir.
You have a good day.
All right, sir.
See you later, man.
God bless you. Thank you. I don't have anything good to say about Obama. I'm sorry. And he made a comment this morning here this morning, and it was already afternoon in Paris, that was one of the most repulsive and non-intelligent statements I have ever heard by any leader, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later on this morning. Caller, please have patience with me. I've got to tell everybody about Four Paws Bed and Bath at 370 West 200 South of Rupert. Oh, my goodness sakes. They're having a Christmas open house on Saturday, December 12th from 12 to 4 p.m. Great refreshments and pictures with your dachshund or your Doberman on Santa's lap. Oh, my goodness, and they're going to have prizes given away. Oh, it's going to be fantastic, and you can get all your doggy apparel and everything. Well, that's where we're going with Ruby this afternoon. My goodness sakes, Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West 200 South of Rupert. Call for more information, 438-4444. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of dinosaurs, I was watching Dianne Feinstein on C-SPAN, and she's from the land of fruit and nuts. But anyway, she is one of them. But here's the point. She is in favor of this climate change, and this is why she says it has to be, is because over there in Syria, they're having a drought. And because of this, it gets the people stirred up, and that makes them into terrorists. So if we can get the climate change taken care of, we won't have any more terrorists.
Yeah, that's to say that for thousands of years, Muslim against Christian and everything else has just been related to climate change. You know, it's almost to the point of being laughable, but with people dying and everything going on in the world as it is today with the crisis of terrorism, it's not funny. But for this president to sit there at a meeting in Paris with 150 world leaders and talk about, oh boy, I hope it's not too late to save the world, and at the same time ISIS is beheading people and burning people alive, the man is an idiot.
Yes, and Dianne Feinstein is one of them.
I agree. Keith, always good to hear from you. I got another call waiting. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to make sure I get everybody in. Caller, I'll be right with you. Do not go away. We have segments on this program that are sponsored by Minidoka Memorial Hospital. What nice people. And we just talked yesterday to the new CEO, Tom Murphy. And they're located at 1224 8th Street in Rupert. And the general information number to call, 436-0481. Your health is so very important. You want to work with the best that really care, and that's your friends and neighbors at Minidoka Memorial Hospital. The number to call, 436-0481. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello, caller. Come on, talk to me.
Oh, yes. Good morning, Zeb. Yeah, our blenderer-in-chief says he has 150 countries behind him on this global warming thing. And the only thing that's going to happen there, these 150 countries, which aren't going to do anything about it, are waiting with open arms for those checks they'll be getting every month for billions of dollars of our taxpayer money.
That's exactly right. I mean, you've drawn it all up into a very short, succinct sentence. They're just going to fall behind the United States with their hands out, and in those hands going to be a tin cup to collect the money. That's all this is just a money-grabbing effect for these countries. They don't care. And I'll tell you something, Tony, that's going to happen on all these funds. This money's going to be used for graft and corruption and everything else but what it's intended for.
You can't do anything with India, China, Russia, Iran. They're not going to cooperate. Nobody's going to cooperate with Barack Obama.
Well, I tell you what, it's a serious problem, and I'll go back to it again. Do you want man, i.e. Obama and people like him, to destabilize God and his nature and try to make the planet colder? And it should be a resounding no. Thank you, Tony. And by the way, go over and give Mary a big kiss. Tell her we said hello.
Okay, will do.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you. Nice people right there. This is really worrisome, because it's going to turn our lives it's going to stop us dead cold, use that word cold, and take money out of our pocketbooks that maybe we desperately need for food, maybe for the kids' clothes and shoes, maybe for our own heating, maybe for our own trying to get to our jobs, etc. This is going to be an Ice Age type approach by Obama, a man that is nothing more than an ideologue that wants to control the world. I really would like a Democrat. Of course, I've said this many times on the air. I'd really like a Democrat to have the nerve or the intestinal fortitude to call me on this program and say how they love this man and they love his formats and they love what he's doing in office as the President of the United States. And you know what he said this morning in his press conference? Obama snuck this in and he said, the American people have the wisdom to vote for and put another Democrat in office for the next President of the United States. I hope we're not that dumb. I hope and I pray that we're not that dumb. Because Democrat, i.e., means Hillary. And Hillary, i.e., means major problems that we don't even have now. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Holy buckets, it's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Mad River Laser. I love that place. I mean, I've had a lot of things done, my business cards over there, I've had baseball caps and sweatshirts done. They are so fantastic. All your business promotional needs, and they can do all your end-of-the-year awards for your business, crystal awards, acrylic, wood, plaques, everything, all the trophies, everything at Mad River Laser. Stop in and see their gift shop too at 502 East Street in Rupert. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this very first day of December. And yes, still going to be cold today. Looking at partly cloudy skies, high of 21 tonight, low of 3. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, high of 30 with an overnight low of 15. For Thursday, could be a heat wave, mostly cloudy, high of 40. And then for Friday, partly cloudy and 38. That's your weather forecast for Zebeth Rain.
Oh, bring on the 40s and hence bring on the 50s. Let's get back into the 60s again, please. Mad River Laser, thank you very much, Nicole and the crew at 502 East Street in Rupert. Mad River Laser bringing you the weather. All right, now give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I got to also throw this in here. Obama was chastising Turkey. He was really going after the government of Turkey and saying, you know what? What you've got to do, Turkey, is close your borders. You've got a porous border right there between Syria, and you've got to close it down and make sure that you keep things in check. Wait a minute. Turkey turned around, and fortunately they were thinking, and they said to Mr. Obama, wait a minute, Obama, maybe you should practice what you preach. with your southern border and also your northern border. Kind of put the old Prez right in his place. So congratulations to Turkey for outspeaking our president. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Obama also said this morning in some of his rhetoric that he's going to make sure that we have a low-carbon global economy. What bothers you about that little phrase? Not only the low carbon, okay? Because all of us have a carbon footprint. That's a gimme. But the thing that really bothers me is the word global. Global. It's as if he's appointed himself as the main man. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Once again on his speech this morning, just to show you how scatterbrained he is a little bit. He went off on a tangent on the Planned Parenthood shooting, and then he went off on another tangent about gun control. What does the World Conference have? Where does that fit into global warming at all?
I'm going to make a comment on that right now, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Now's a perfect time to mention that. So thank you very much for your call. I want to talk about that for a minute. God bless you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
What the gentleman just now referred to is really true. I picked up on that this morning when I was listening to the press conference, and then the major networks, many of them, NBC, CBS, and ABC, they won't comment on this. But Obama was asked a question about the shooting in Colorado Springs at the Planned Parenthood. And he made, I think, and this has got to go down as one of the most backward, one of the most unintelligent, and one of the most biased remarks I've ever heard. He looked at the camera standing there at the podium, and he said, mass shootings don't occur anywhere else in the world except in the United States. Mass shootings do not occur anywhere else in the world except in the United States. Now, you're probably scratching your head and saying, well, what did he mean, Zeb? What do you mean? Think about it. The man is standing in Paris, France. The man is standing literally blocks away from where the terrorist attacks killed and slaughtered and maimed so many Parisians and tourists, using guns and using hand grenades and using all kinds of weapons. And then our leader, a buffoon, comes out and says that mass shootings don't occur in any other country? That's an insult not only to the United States citizens, but it's an insult to the world because this man is so stupid. How can you say something literally days from the mass shootings in that theater, that concert hall, where these terrorists stood up on the balcony and shot down like they were just taking target practice on rock chucks? And then he says it doesn't occur anywhere else in the world? Do you not see that this man is not qualified to be president? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What a buffoon. Don't forget Snake River Auto Body, and they're located at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. I was really, truly blessed when I took my vehicle over there. Dan and the whole crew, I mean, man, these are good people over there, and they get the job done and got my pickup fixed right. Satisfaction guaranteed with quality workmanship, and they've been in business since 1996. They've got all the estimators. They've got everybody that works directly with the repairs with insurance companies. attorneys. They know what they're doing. Please take my advice and go to the best. Snake River Auto Body Incorporated, and they're located at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. Number to call, 734-5790. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I never thought I'd have to agree with Obama, but in one context, when he says that it may be too late, he may be right. However, his idea is the wrong idea. If you read your Bible, the King James Bible says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and will heal their land.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But wait, let me stop you right there, and pardon my rudeness. But this man and his ideology and his bent for being in complete control by saying that we are now going to control the temperature, we are now going to control the world, and we're going to take it away from God and God's nature, this is so ominous, it's really scary.
Well, the only way that man has of trying to reverse this is to do as the Bible says and turn to God. And people are not doing it. We have Planned Parenthood. There's one right there.
Yeah.
Then we have people boys wanting to be girls, girls wanting to be boys. So there's so much going on. And look at Hollywood, for instance. How can God be really happy with the people that's on earth right now?
Let me ask you a question, sir, and you're very knowledgeable, and I just love talking to someone like you about the Bible and about the words of God in the Bible. You know, we're talking about school districts, even here in a very conservative state of Idaho, changing for more of an open approach to the gays, lesbians, and transgenders at the risk of other students. We are making means necessary to accord them what they find comfortable and making it uncomfortable for about 99% of the other people and parents. This is insane, and it's got to stop. I actually belittle Twin Falls School District, and I belittle, before they even make the adjustment, Kimberly School District for even thinking about this. Don't you agree with me?
Oh, I have to agree with that. Exactly. This is a lot of what's happening in this United States is the boy, girl that goes to college for 4 years comes out and thinks they know everything and they want to change the world, but they're going about it in the wrong way.
Absolutely.
And the kids are ruling, and they haven't got the experience to rule.
Look at the mess on college campuses, and this deal it started in the University of Missouri, with the president kowtowing and bowing and then capitulating to the vermin that were in the college with their demands, and then the chancellor quitting, and then, of course, at Dartmouth University with the Black Lives Matter taking over the library and absolutely just destroying any kind of an educational value for those people that were in there. If you were the president of a major university, let me ask you, how would you have stopped that foolishness?
Oh, I'm afraid I better not answer that because I'd probably get shot myself. But I would sure not kowtow down to the students. I think that while I agree they have a voice, but it has to be an educated voice and not someone that just wants to disrupt, which is what they want to do.
Absolutely.
Obama has done more to drive a wedge between the blacks and the whites than anyone in history has.
Amen.
And, I don't know why he would want to do that, but it's costing us millions in trials, in our police force. It's really hurting the United States.
You know what? You're welcome to call anytime. You were a real breath of fresh air. Thank you so much.
You bet, Zeb. You have a good day.
All right. God bless you. The man is right. And the ideology of Obama saying 7 years plus ago, remember he used the words, I'm going to fundamentally change America. Boy, he has. And not for the better. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. Oh, my goodness, they are busy this time of the year putting on all your traction tires. You better believe it. And, of course, all the tires with the studs, and, of course, they've got all the tire chains, and they got the snow wheels. Oh, my goodness, be traction ready for this winter. And don't forget, too, that they have got the best in brake service. I really want to emphasize that this morning. Professionally trained technicians and premium quality parts and the brake industry's best warranty. They know brakes. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Ho-ho! With these cold mornings, you need a good battery. So you stop in and see Lane and Rupert, and of course Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you for your calls this morning in the first hour. I tell you, I got the greatest audience in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. And coming up next hour, Frosty Woldridge, and then also Dr. John Zamirik, and we're looking forward to those people. And you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch for this first hour. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. We're going to take a little break for about 6 minutes and be back shortly with more Zeb at the Ranch. Oh my, here we go. Hour number 2 on a very pretty good morning out there on a Tuesday, but chilly. December 1st. Oh my goodness. Oh, got to ring the bell. Merry Christmas, everybody. There you go. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always the Georgia circle. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at Georgia circle. Western Way Services.
You know, when I look at that slogan and, of course, the name of the company, Western Way Services, there's the word right there, service, always at your disposal. Get on the route service and have your garbage picked up every week. You can almost set your watch by those guys. They are really, really good. Locally owned and operated, and they are fantastic. With all the garbage pickup and, of course, the roll-offs and the dumpsters and the porta potties, everything always at your disposal. Western Way Services. 734-6969. I also want to take the time like I normally do every day and just say, whoa, wait a minute. I want to talk about some really nice people that have been serving the community of Magic Valley for a long time, and that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, his family, his staff, serving you. When there's the passing of a loved one, everything is thrown into turmoil, and you want attention to get everything done in a very short period of time. They can help. They will help, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please write this number down and call them at 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Hey, real quick also, I want to remind you about our friends at Let's Ride, and then we're going to get Frosty on the line. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the world. They serve everybody, I'll tell you what, where the fun is sold. And believe me, we got more of that angel dandruff on the way. And if you've got a four-wheeler and want to get a snowplow, they've got them. They got the four-wheelers and the snowplows. What more could you ask for? What a great way to have fun and do the good job and maybe help neighbors get plowed out and everything else. It's a lot of fun. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the world, where the fun is sold. Right now, I want to talk to, I bet you he's higher than a kite this morning because his Denver Broncos did something that my Green Bay Packers couldn't do, and they couldn't beat the Denver Broncos either. And the Broncos in overtime beat the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, and I'm going, yay, Broncos! Here's Frosty Woolridge.
Hey, good morning, Zevin. Absolutely Merry Christmas to each and every person listening today, and it's exciting. Yes, the Broncos had a backup quarterback that beat a legend, and we, of course, also enjoyed the fact that the Michigan State Spartans took on Penn State, and they just whooped on them. So, yeah, here in the Woolridge household, there's all sorts of cheering and excitement. The Christmas tree is up, and we're excited about celebrating the Christmas season.
You know, it is the Christmas season, but I've got to get back to reality here. And there is no one that I know anywhere in this United States that is more tuned in and knowledgeable about illegal aliens and illegal immigration into this country than you, Frosty Woolridge. And I can just imagine, had I been in your office, had I been sitting next to you when it became apparent that the lawsuit of illegal aliens to the state of Oregon demanding driver's licenses, I would imagine that you probably circled your desk about 3 times and then finally landed. This has got to be very upsetting.
It's a part of and parcel of the leaders of the United States refusing to do their job to enforce our borders and to enforce internal illegal immigration, employment, housing, and transportation. And, of course, I've been dealing with this for well over 20 years now, and so nothing really anymore surprises me. And as I've said in my book, Immigration's Unarmed Invasion, Deadly Consequences, which is now 12 years old, was published in 2003, I said the more illegals that come into this country, and that now includes all the more Muslims you get into this country, they start edging their way into the system themselves. They become part of the governmental structure. And as their numbers grow, they get to demand more. For those of you who don't appreciate this, in Dearborn, Michigan, Hamtramck area, Muslims have now taken over the city council, and they are starting to implement Sharia law, which is antithetical to the U.S. Constitution. And it's certainly antithetical to women's rights, free choice, and right on down the line. And so it's not really a big surprise to me, because the American people have not risen up, have not said anything. The last 5 presidents haven't really done anything about illegal immigration. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has continued to completely support illegal immigration, as well as massive legal immigration. And so you're getting the numbers that are now starting to create a majority. You know, we call it a majority minority. And as their numbers grow, they have the arrogance and they have the numbers to offset our laws. And so really that's pretty much what's going on. And until we as Americans stand up and start electing officials into the House of Representatives and in the Senate who will stand up, actually like a Donald Trump, actually stand up and say, hey, I am going to make sure that illegal aliens are going to be out of this country and not allowed into this country. Until we start voting in senators and House reps and a president who will enforce the Constitution of the United States, this kind of thing is going to continue.
You know, I want to pursue this a little bit more about Dearborn, Michigan, and the seriousness of what you speak. You know, you and I can sit here on the radio and we can talk about these subjects about illegal aliens and illegal immigration. And there will be a certain percentage out in the audience that will damn you and I because they think come one, come all. But when you think about what's going on back in Dearborn, Michigan, with the absolutely in your face, America, we're going to elect Muslims, we're going to start the imposition possibly of Sharia law, our future, our Constitution, our entire country could be a test case as to what happens in Dearborn, Michigan.
Oh, better believe it, Zeb. Again, if you go to refugeeresettlementwatch.wordpress.com, join Ann Corcoran, and find out exactly what's going on. She really brings the best updates and has the most current information. But it's called Hejira. Watch her 4-minute video. Hejira is the same thing that's happening to Europe right now. It's the same thing that's happening to Australia, and it's happening also in Canada. But it's really happening to us, and that is the seeding of a host country with so many Muslims that at some point they take over and they implement Sharia law. That is exactly what's happening, and we are in the crosshairs of history. I can't say this enough, because if you look out across this country, everybody, the vast majority of Americans cannot be bothered. They don't care. They're apathetic, and they absolutely do nothing. And they don't make any calls. And I've always asked everyone to join capsweb.org and numbersusa.org and carryingcapacity.org if you want to collectively empower yourself. Otherwise, we're all sitting there by the sidelines watching our team get beat. And our team is our country, and our country is, we don't get to flee anywhere, folks. This is it. America is it. I can't flee someplace else for a better life. This is my country, and if I don't protect it, then, again, I simply become a victim, along with all of my family and all of my friends and all of my state and all of the rest of the country.
Frosty, with the amount of people that you talk to and the amount of radio and television interviews that you do, and, of course, all of your writings and all of the people that respond to your writings, what's going on out here? I mean, why aren't people concerned about our country, our well-being, and our future? I have never in all of my 68 years, and I mean this sincerely, seen a more blasé American public across the face of this nation than what there is now.
You would be correct, and the same blasé public is France, and the same apathetic public is Norway and Sweden, and the same apathy is also Germany, and the UK, and Holland, and Belgium. And I can tell you, they are taking over. Muslims are taking over Europe. And literally, they're so thick now in numbers that Europe doesn't know what to do. They literally can't change what's already in the beast is in the belly. They've swallowed the beast. And the key is, once they get past around 5% of a host country, that's when there's been many formulations of how Islam works. But at first, it's 1%, 2%. Yeah, they're just nice, and they're just sweet, and they're just doing their thing, and so forth. But as their numbers grow, Islam becomes more arrogant and more aggressive. And as it becomes more aggressive, it moves into, there's only two, well, one has been indicted now. There's two U.S. House representatives that are Muslims. One's from Minnesota. Ellison is his name, Keith Ellison.
Right.
And the other one from, I think, the Washington East Coast area. He got caught in some kind of, he was submitting help for the Muslim Brotherhood, so he's now under indictment. But what happens when there's 10 Muslim House reps and 10 U.S. senators? I can guarantee you this, they'll start working to implement Sharia law. That is the way Islam works. Everyone keeps thinking that you've got the Boston Marathon, or you've got the Tennessee or Kentucky 4 servicemen who were killed at a recruiting station. You think the beheadings are just something separate, or you think that the Fort Hood killings were something separate, or any and all these different. These are all connected. They're connected just like they are in Paris, France. If you notice, north of the Paris, France killings just 2 weeks ago, there was a whole nest of them, 8 more members that were going to start shooting up and blowing up the North Paris. And then Brussels is now under a 24-hour complete shutdown and curfew for the last week or so, because the same kinds of terrorists were literally ready to blow up the place there in Brussels, Belgium. And we're going to see more of Paris, France here in the United States. If you saw my last piece on newswithviews.com, I talked about part 7 of the most violent religion on earth, and of course that's Islam. And we literally continue our apathy at our peril, because Paris, France will visit any town USA here in the coming months and or years, absolutely for certain, absolutely guaranteed another Paris, France will occur here in the United States.
And you know, Frosty, this is kind of a silly question to some degree, but I think it bears asking. Why are we so naive? Why can't we see the motivating force behind what's going on? Why can't newspapers like our Times News right here in southern Idaho, why are they so naive and basically so stupid to welcome these problems into the area, with the bottom line being an agenda that is against everything we stand for?
That is such a complex answer, and I try to really express it to all who read my columns each week with an understanding of baseline America. I'm just a regular American citizen. I'm not a George Will, I'm not a Thomas Friedman, and I'm certainly not the New York Times, because those people are so out of touch with America. As a matter of fact, last week, Denver, Colorado, the Denver Post wrote a thing. Why is this incredible presidential, deal with Trump so unbelievable? He makes some gaffes and so forth, and they can't understand why his numbers keep rising. So I followed up with a letter to the editor to the Denver Post. I said, Donald Trump is literally speaking for all Americans, whereas the Denver Post has avoided anything about illegal immigration, has supported it, has done nothing to report on it. And it's the only reason that I saw this article is I got a piece of the Denver Post there at the rec center where I work out, and I told all the editors of the Denver Post, I said, you're a part of the conspiracy to completely ruin America by not enforcing our laws, not reporting on illegal immigration, actually condoning it, because Colorado is a sanctuary state and Denver is a sanctuary city, and John Hickenlooper literally is not serving American citizens, and all of this is going on. And I said, it's the reason I don't take the Denver Post anymore. And I said, you're all guilty of completely abrogating your responsibility as journalists. And I said, it's the reason the Denver Post is not read anymore, and it's the reason you have no validity with the American people, and it's why you don't understand that Donald Trump is number one in the polls to become the next president of the United States. And so I just told it like it is. But that, when you look at the total of that, Zeb, that's what's happening across the country. The elites and the people in power, the corporations that want this massive influx, invasion of legal and illegal immigrants, don't care about Americans. They don't care about what's happening to us, and that's why it's going on. And the American people themselves are simply clueless as to the final outcome of this situation. And because they are clueless, and also the fact that they're just trying to bring up their families, they hope or think that the representatives are actually going to serve them, and the fact is they're not. And it's both the two senators from Idaho. Have they done anything to stop illegal immigration or stop the mass immigration of the 1965 Immigration Reform Act? And the fact is they haven't, neither has the House rep, and that's the same thing here in Colorado, the same thing in California. Boxer and Feinstein in California, the worst state in the union for illegal immigration and mass immigration, and none of those senators, none of those House reps will do anything to stop it, and that's why the illegals, with their numbers so great, are literally taking to the courts to make their illegality legal there in Oregon, and that's all over the country, Zeb.
Well, let me just tell you a little bit of what I saw this morning. Maybe you saw the same thing, I don't know. But I saw a father on television this morning by the name of Jamil Shaw. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, let me give you a little background.
Oh, yes, I do. I know the story.
All right. His son was an outstanding football player in California, and his life was taken by an illegal alien that should have been in jail for the rest of his life because of all the past and previous crimes and shootings, etc. And the man made a statement this morning that absolutely I want to bring out in front of the public at this time. Mr. Shaw talked about the death of his son. He talked about Donald Trump. He talked about the state of America. He talked about how we're giving everything away to the illegal aliens. We're basically being a better friend to them than we are citizens first. And he made the statement and he said, it's time. It's actually past time to put Americans first. And Frosty, that was so sharp and so poignant and so succinct. I am sick and tired of giving everybody else that is not a citizen or giving them benefits, creating welfare stipends for them. And it's about time that we started thinking about Americans first.
It's more than way past time for that. And as you understand, go to my Facebook page, Frosty Wooldridge, and you'll see my latest works. I've actually called for the complete shutdown on all immigration. We need to rescind the 1965 Immigration Reform Act. We don't need another 100 million third world immigrants in this country. I can't say it enough. And that Jamal, you can go to Kate Steinle, you can go to all of the people who've been killed. Thousands of Americans have been killed by illegal aliens. They've been raped, they've been burglarized, they've been drunk driving and killed. It continues. I mean, here we had the one little kid that got killed in a Baskin Robbins along with two old ladies by an illegal alien who actually had been caught 8 different times and let loose because Denver is a sanctuary city. So it's not new. And until the American people, also, does anybody realize that immigrants coming into this country, 91% of immigrants, Muslim immigrants, right on down the line, are all on welfare? We're importing poverty into our country.
Yes.
We're importing people who have no business being in a first world country. They have no skills. They have no language skills. They have no cultural skills. They have no nothing. And we keep dumping them in at 100,000 every 30 days. The madness of the Congress and the complete stupidity and arrogance of our representatives to overlook what's happening to us and then just continue down the same route is enough to drive me absolutely up a wall, because I see the consequences, and then I see the long-term consequences as it continues to literally build. And then you have illegals absolutely marching to have themselves made legal by getting a driver's license. It shows you how apathetic this country is. And we're going to pay, and we're continuing to pay, a severe price, Zeb.
I think you've just come up with the title for your new book, Importing Poverty. I love that, and it's so true. Frosty, I wished I had more time. I am out of time. I'm dictated to by the clock, but I want to extend to you and yours Merry Christmas wishes as we draw closer and closer, and we'll look forward to having you on the air next Tuesday.
Always a pleasure and always an honor, Zeb, and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you out there. Let's get involved. Please join those organizations I talk about. Go to my Facebook page, Frosty Wooldridge, for the latest. And let's just keep battling for America and Americans in the future. Thank you so much, Zeb.
God bless you, man. See you next week. Frosty Wooldridge in Golden, Colorado. Thank you. Merry Christmas wishes. Oh, we got to get some of those on right now from Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West of Paul on Kimberly Road. Your Zomatic dealer. They will get you wet, and they wish you and yours a Merry Christmas. Along with Burley Glass, Gentle Ben and the crew at 1029 Overland in Burley, a huge thank you to you for all the support for their business. They say Merry Christmas. And Senator Kelly Anthon, nice guy. He would like to wish all the good people of Mini-Cassia a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, as does Representative and Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, wishing you and all of his constituents a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Right now, I also want to remind you, as I knocked a great big pile of papers over, and big piles of paper in this office are not unusual, I want to give you the words about professionals that really care about your insurance, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, and believe me, the folks over at Cameron Siemens Insurance are really dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you have to do is pick up the phone and give them a call, make an appointment at 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, they will serve you. We're about ready to have our next guest on the phone, but before we do, look who's on the program, and Santa Claus has already been at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Yeah, he dropped off all kinds of great savings for you. Listen to this: bunk beds and sectionals and living room furniture and recliners and chairs and all the sofas and three-piece occasional tables. What are you waiting for? You'd better get in there and treat yourself to a wonderful Christmas present for you and your furniture at your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Wonderful people at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Let's go to the phone lines right now. And I believe we're all set to go with our next guest. And we've had him on the program, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 months ago. And I asked him at that time if I said his name correctly, and I'm going to try it again this morning. We have with us Dr. John Zmirak. Is that pretty close, John?
That's actually correct. You got it. You nailed it. Nobody ever gets it. I've just given up.
Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate your coming back on the program this morning. You and I are, I think, cut of the same cloth on our opinions. It sounds like it anyway. I have been, and I want to give you a little brief history on this, I have been absolutely against Planned Parenthood. I have been absolutely against a baby parts factory. I've been against their calloused attitude. I've been against their abortion schedules and procedures, and that is not to say that I would ever advocate the violence that has been done against their offices or their people. I'll let you pick up the story from that point.
Well, that's right. What is it that pro-lifers want? We want the police to close abortion clinics and put abortionists on trial, and if they are convicted, put them in prison. That is what we are asking for. We are asking for the force of law to be extended to protect the lives of unborn children. At no point have we called for vigilante violence or a civil war to be fought on the issue of abortion. And in the article I wrote at the Stream, I tried to explain to people why pro-lifers oppose vigilante violence, even though we do believe, and we know, based on rational scientific evidence, that unborn children are human and alive, and we know, based on logic, that they are entitled to full human rights, and therefore 1 million of them being murdered each year with the connivance of the Supreme Court under American law is an atrocity. It's a kind of American Holocaust. But that does not mean we want to start a civil war to change that situation. You can think that something is evil without starting a war over it. There's a long Christian tradition called the just war tradition, where you look at an evil situation and you judge whether or not it is appropriate to fight a war over it. And among the criteria is whether that war would be enormously destructive. Yes, a civil war in America would be enormously destructive, I think we can agree. Whether that destruction might outweigh the evil you're trying to stop, I don't know. More than 1 million people might die in such a civil war. Whether that war is likely to succeed, who knows? So it's quite clear from all these rational criteria, and also the fact that we still have legal power. We can replace Supreme Court justices. We can amend the Constitution. We have not exhausted the nonviolent means of trying to change the profoundly evil situation of 1 million innocent children being murdered every year.
Yeah.
What the pro-aborts are trying to do right now, they're trying to say, well, if you really believe that unborn children are human and a million of them are being murdered every year, you should be praising people who shoot up abortion clinics. Since you're not, you clearly recognize that fetuses really aren't human, they're just clumps of cells. And that, what they're trying to do is force us into a false dilemma. Either you want to start a civil war, or we are right.
You know, John,
that is a completely false dilemma. It's intellectually shoddy, but it's the kind of thing that's easy to convey on Twitter, and it's easy to convey when you control the major media network.
Yeah. You know, John, I look at this, and I hope you don't and are not offended by me calling you John. If you want me to call you Dr. Zmirak, I will, but I'm kind of upfront and personal on a lot of things. I look at this situation not only with the Planned Parenthood, but many, many instances that are going on in this country right now, where the liberal left, they use the 3 size words. Let me explain. They use the words demonize, minimize, and ostracize. When they come up against someone like you or me or our feelings and thoughts and philosophies, they use minimize, demonize, and ostracize to get us out of the picture. And you know what? They're good at it.
They are. I was just on a television program, and I pointed out that according to a mainstream media study, 90% or more of reporters, journalists, consider themselves pro-choice, and 80% of them don't even personally know anyone who's pro-life. So to us, they are like, to them, you and I, we're like Martians or members of ISIS or ancient Romans or medieval Frenchmen. We are an alien species. They cannot even imagine what we think. They never even speak to people like that. And as a result, they feel completely justified in caricaturing our opinions. Meanwhile, they bend over backwards to defend theocratic Muslims in foreign countries. So when a group of Arab refugees and immigrants guns people down in Paris while screaming about Islam and quoting the Quran, that has nothing to do with Islam. That's not the real Islam. But when a psychopath who has been arrested repeatedly for being a peeping Tom and shooting dogs, who has no connection to the pro-life movement whatsoever, shoots up a shopping center that has a Planned Parenthood in it, all of a sudden the Catholic bishops, the Pope, every evangelical preacher in America are implicated in this psychopath shooting spree. The double standard could not be more obvious. They're trying to brazen it out. They just think if they don't have to justify the double standard, just keep applying it, keep telling the same lie. The bigger the lie is, the easier it is to get it across to people in simple words.
John, would you look at this entire situation, not just the shooting that occurred at Colorado Springs recently, but overall, the complexion of what's going on here in this country primarily and secondarily across the world? Is this just a huge assault on religion and Christianity and a minimization, if you will, of faith in this country?
Well, yes, I certainly agree with that, although they're carving out a huge exception for Muslim faith, because Muslims are minorities, they're not Caucasian, they're exotic. It's fashionable to be understanding about Islam while applying the most harshest possible standard to Christianity. And we see that going back to when Barack Obama spoke at the first prayer breakfast, where ISIS had just burned, I think, 16 people alive. They were actually Jordanian Muslims themselves. They burned alive 16 captives in a steel cage the day before the prayer breakfast. He had to mention that. But in order to deal with mentioning it, he also brought up the Crusades and the Ku Klux Klan and slavery as examples of Christian sin. These things had in common that they happened hundreds of years ago, that they, in many cases, didn't reflect what Christianity actually teaches. Meanwhile, the execution of these prisoners by ISIS, they justified it based on the Quran, and it had happened the day before. So Muslims are always going to skate on the charges. They'll never be associated with the terrorism that's done in their name, while Christians will be held responsible for what people did 5 to 500 to 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, but John, how does America change this downward spiral into the sewer? How do we get people to be more, lose the apathy and start to stand up and say something? What do we do, John? There's got to be some answer to this question.
I'm hopeful that this presidential nominating process will yield a principled, solid, conservative, pro-life candidate who will be there in the media. It's impossible to marginalize someone if he's a presidential candidate, and it's better yet if he's elected. Remember what Ronald Reagan did. He was considered a fringe candidate in 1976. By 1980, he was president of the United States, and the conservative movement have moved into the mainstream. You can't marginalize the most powerful man in the world. So I think the most important thing we can do right now is be very discerning in our choice of presidential candidates and hold their feet to the fire. Not follow our instincts, not follow the media, but really look for a solid, principled candidate. So I'm hopeful that this presidential nominating race will be taken very, very seriously. I've been very impressed by Ted Cruz's performance, frankly. He's the one who impresses me the most.
When you say that, and we look at the left, and we see Hillary Clinton standing up there and applauding Planned Parenthood, and we see her applauding most of the Obama philosophies, and then we see, like I'll go back and say, the demonization, minimization, and the ostracizing of the conservatives, and the media almost making mock of these people, it doesn't look real good right now for 2016, does it?
Oh, I think it does. I think Hillary's an extremely weak candidate. I think it would be hard for the Republicans to nominate someone who couldn't beat her. But you know what? We've overcome challenges like that in the past. We've nominated a long succession of squishy, moderate candidates who went on to lose. So I think we have to make sure that Republican elites and that the donor class and that the Republicans in blue states in the Northeast, whose states will electoral college votes will never again go for Republicans, that they don't pick a squishy, mealy-mouthed candidate who is going to actually lose to Hillary Clinton.
The main thing, if you will, using the word thing as a total entity, that has to change in this country, and I'd like you to respond on this, is the media itself. We have a very far-left media, a very specific media that they've got one track to run on. They won't put the train on the other track. How do we change this? It seems like they've gone from journalism into absolute bias.
Well, they have, but that's why I'm glad Fox News exists. I'm glad there are so many good internet sites. I'm glad to work for one, stream.org. There's a lot of religious programming. There's a lot of talk radio. I think many people have just opted out of the mainstream media. I haven't watched network news in 20 years. I let my digital subscription to the New York Times lapse a few months ago. Even though I'm a native New Yorker and I like to read the news from home, I just could not take the bias anymore. It had gone from the editorial page to completely infect the news page. Let's remember, traditional journalism is dying as a model, for better or worse. And opinion journalism, the Twitterverse, online writing, radio, niche TV are filling the gap. I think that's why Fox News became the number one news network, because it was selling a product you couldn't get anywhere else, which was reasonably balanced reporting that took conservative views seriously and didn't treat conservatives as if they were lunatics wanting to restore the Spanish Inquisition.
You've written quite a few books, John, but tell us about your latest book, The Race to Save Our Century. Give us a little background on that title and the book itself.
Sure. That's a book I wrote with pro-life activist and filmmaker Jason Jones. It's an attempt to look at the genocides and human rights abuses of the 20th century and find out how they happened, why they happened, what led to the Holocaust, what led to the Ukrainian famine, what led to Mao Zedong's genocides in China, what led to the plague of abortion in America. Can we find common threads in the philosophies that underlay these political movements that produce these genocides? And our answer is yes. There are actually 5 modern ideologies of evil, as we call them, that disregard the sanctity of life, that diminish the sanctity of the human person, that take away human freedom and break up the family in service of various utopian ideas of how we should live, sort of undergraduate fantasies of a perfect world. And in order to create a perfect world, you can kill as many imperfect people who get in your way as you find necessary. So we took our starting point with Pope John Paul II, who talked about the culture of death and ideologies of evil, and we wanted to examine those things and present what were the core principles, we call them the whole life principles, of respect for life, love, family, freedom, patriotism, a free market, a basically decent way of life that would be recognizable to the Christian saints and the American founders and General George Patton and Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan, the view of the good that's increasingly being attacked and destroyed by the left. So if you want to find out more, go to our website, saveourcentury.com.
Very well.
Mike Huckabee and Pat Buchanan endorsed the book among a long list of academics and other great thinkers.
All right. Dr. John Zmirak, and senior editor for The Stream. And, John, you're welcome here anytime, all the time. And may I be one of the first to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
You too.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed having him on the program previously, and back again this time. Dr. John Zmirak with a book called The Race to Save Our Century. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, and it's time for the weather forecast, and then I'll take all your calls. I know they're just coming in. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, the sponsor of our weather this hour. Number to call, 438-2485 or 431-8733. Your tree trimming, pruning, removal of tree limbs. Whoops, you don't want them going through the bay window. Better get it taken care of before the wind blows something right through the front door. And, of course, don't forget, too, they've got a brand new curbing machine. So if you want a curb around your property, yes-sirree, Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, the people to call. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this very first day of December. And yes, still going to be cold today. Looking at partly cloudy skies, high of 21 tonight, low of 3. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, high of 30 with an overnight low of 15. For Thursday, could be a heat wave, mostly cloudy, high of 40. And then for Friday, partly cloudy and 38. That's your weather forecast for Zebit the Ranch.
I don't know, Gina, if I'd qualify 30s and 40s as a heat wave, but I will take it. I promise you that. Brought to you this hour by Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. And the number to call, 438-2485 or 431-8733. Your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This story, it just made me furious when I heard it. And I am not going to mention the supermarket as to where this happened, because they're not all, by any means, this stupid. But there was a Marine that was, I guess, originally invited to be inside this supermarket, and he was in full dress uniform. And the reason he was in this supermarket was to solicit funds for Toys for Tots. I mean, he was doing a great service to the community and to the youngsters that may not have a Merry Christmas. Well, the new manager of this supermarket didn't want him there. And she said, if you're going to solicit funding for Toys for Tots, you're going to have to stand outside. It was pouring rain outside. She said, you can't do it in the store. Get out of the store. Stand outside. I don't care what the weather is. That's it. So this Marine, in full dress uniform, stood in the pouring rain to get money from people going in and out of the store so that they, the Marines, could go and buy toys for the needy kids at Christmas time with the Toys for Tots. Now, maybe that story doesn't bother you. Oh, but it makes me furious. I would like to do anything and everything in my power to get that manager fired. I would do anything in my power to make sure that that Marine and the United States Marines en masse have a focal point inside that supermarket, and they're apologized to on a nationwide basis. You know, our military, whether it's the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, they're always there for us. Always there for us. Always doing something for our protection or our benefit. And you know, when a very naive and, yes, stupid store manager tells a Marine in full dress uniform, you go stand in the rain, I don't want you in here. How low is that? Give me your calls on that story. Let me hear what your thoughts are. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Every one of the people that were in that store, had they known the circumstances of what was going on and why that Marine was standing out in the pouring rain trying to get funding for Toys for Tots, they should have turned around and taken every one of their purchases back into that supermarket and said, you know what? I'm not going to buy this product from you. I'm going to take the money that product cost, and I'm going to put it right out there with that Marine for Toys for Tots. Adios, amigo. Have a wonderful day. What are your thoughts? Come on, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk to you while I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in about Red's Trading Post. And I mean this, and I tie this together every day, but it's the truth. You and I have to be responsible for our own safety and protection. And I urge you to consider going to Red's Trading Post and buying a firearm, whether it's Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, whatever, and learning and vowing to understand all the safety, everything about being a firearm owner, because you are your first line of defense. And they have everything you need and are looking for right there at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, with my dear friend Ryan Horsley and his entire staff. They've been in historic Old Town Twin Falls since 1936. Stop in and see them today. Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. All right, give me your thoughts on that. Come on, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I can't imagine the store manager, and it was a lady, I might want to change my words on that, that went up to that Marine and said, you're going to have to leave the store. I don't want you in here. You're going to have to stand out in the rain and get funding for the Toys for Tots. All the good, all the benefits, all the love and compassion that this one particular Marine was trying to garner to help other people, and then he's told to go stand out in the rain? Please, how low can you get? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call and let me know what your thoughts are on this. And I want to just give you a quick story about refugees and the concern that we have is validated. Germany has confirmed the people's worst fear of the refugee crisis. And for all you bleeding heart liberals out there, many of which work for the Times News and or the College of Southern Idaho, radical Islamist groups in Germany. Listen to that first couple of words again. Radical Islamist groups in Germany are taking advantage of the migrant crisis by offering food and shelter to refugees with the hopes of recruiting them to join their terrorist organizations. Federal officials recorded more than 100 cases of known radical Islamists initiating contact with refugees and are trying to get them to join ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. What more proof do you need, folks, that all that glitters is not gold? And now is the time to stop the refugee influx from that particular area until there is a thorough vetting process, and there isn't one. Don't be fooled by some of the rash and brass statements in the Times News or the College of Southern Idaho or anyone else. There is not a thorough vetting of these individuals from this war-torn, ravaged area of the world. They haven't got a clue who these people are or what they represent or anything in their background whatsoever. To say anything else is a lie, and I'm reverting back to the opinions and facts stated by the FBI and Homeland Security. Your thoughts, come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, I also want to remind you that on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days. And Cassia County School Days is brought to you by two wonderful sponsors, Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley and Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland. At a Child's World, they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new toys, games, and puzzles, all of this and more at a Child's World waiting for you. And then also at an Ambulatory Surgery Center, all your outpatient surgery and save money. All you have to do is call them and find out more. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and a Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zed. Let's put them two stories together. That store manager probably would have welcomed refugees in because she kicked the military out, and that's been going on for an awful long time. We've treated our military people with less respect, especially this time of year being this close to Pearl Harbor Day, than what we ever have.
I agree.
It seems like it gets worse every year. So I feel bad for that Marine and what he had to go through, but I can see where that could happen, even in Twin Falls, Idaho.
Absolutely, sir. I appreciate it. God bless you and Merry Christmas. I got one other quick call. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Caller, I've got exactly 30 seconds. Go fast, please.
Yes, that does bother me because of me being a dual veteran. Just being a veteran, that bothers me that a store would do something that rude to one of our veterans. And I hope he got more money than he would have got if he would have been inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. We're going to take a little break right now, come back with the world-famous, literally the world-famous Dr. History, known in 110 countries, and we still have relationships with those countries. It's amazing. Dr. History coming up next. Don't go away. I got to turn my mic on. Good morning. I just told Dr. History, I said, hey, okay, your mic's on, be quiet, and I turned mine off and started to talk. It's one of the little things in this radio business that you have to do, turn the mic on. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, and some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service, 734-6969. Want to say, good eating at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, Tuesday, they're going to have the hot brown sandwich served with choice of side veggies and super salad. I love hot brown sandwiches. You're going to love all the specials and the great menu choices at the Chadwick Sports Grill. And they're at 139 West Main in Burley. Really, really nice people at the Chadwick. Well, as you have surmised, it is time for Dr. History, and Dr. History is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley with old Zach and the rest of the crew with everything you need. Windows, they've got them, Western windows to keep the cold outside, all your lumber, all your gates and panels, everything at Minnecasia Sales. And we say good morning to that always smiling, effervescent personality of, what was your name again? Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. A little rough road out here to get out here today.
Rough road. That's the worst. Highway 30 from my place back east has not been taken care of at all. It's pathetic.
Got to go slow.
Yes. Yeah, but 5 miles an hour ain't going to get you far.
That's true. Are we ready?
Well, I hope so.
Okay.
I kept quiet for a moment.
Well, I'm not used to that.
You said you did your homework.
I did. You said you wanted a local story, and I got probably one of the most well-known, famous stories that happened in southern Idaho.
Really? What is it?
Diamond Phil Jack.
Diamond
Phil Jack.
Interesting character.
He was indeed.
Yeah.
So we'll start February 16th, 1896.
Yeah.
2 sheepmen by the name of Cummings and Wilson were found dead in their wagons. Both had been shot. The conditions of the body of the men indicated they'd been dead for about 10 to 14 days. The position of the bodies and the blood that was found on the ground in front of the wagon indicated that both men had been shot with a .44 caliber bullet. Now, that's going to come into play here.
Oh, yes, it is.
Apparently, both had been wounded. Cummings had assisted Wilson into the wagon and had thrown an overcoat over him.
Yeah.
Wilson was shot in the back, and one shot struck his chin and his chest.
Whew.
Now, Cummings had been shot through the intestines. The condition of Cummings and the nature of the wound showed that he had lived maybe 1 to 24 hours after the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Diamond Phil Jack was so named because of his telling fellow cowboys of a huge diamond field he had seen, supposedly.
Okay. Right.
And thus he was nicknamed Diamond Phil Jack. Now, his real name was Jack Davis, and he was suspected of the crime, but he could not be found. Well, he was traced to Yuma, Arizona, where he was captured and returned to the Cassia County Jail at Albin.
Yeah.
Thus began one of the most famous trials in the state of Idaho. Now, Diamond Phil Jack had an alibi. He was still placed on trial. He was tried and found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to hang.
How did they, at that juncture, I'm going to interrupt you a couple of times here because I've got questions. How did they, being the law and the general public, ascertain that he was the shooter? What were the clues that led them to him?
I think because he'd been hired by the cattlemen.
I see.
And there was extreme tension between the cattlemen and the sheepmen.
Right, up on deadline.
Exactly. And let's just talk about that for a second. Out here towards Rock Creek, everything on the east side was the cattlemen. No, the other way around.
Yep.
The east side was the sheepmen, the west side was the cattlemen. And they were supposed to observe that boundary. So, but because of his reputation and working for the cattle people, I think the sheepmen said, yeah, he's the one that did it.
Ah, so it was guilt by association.
Yeah, yep. And as I said, at this time, hatred and tension was running high, and there was fear that the sheepmen would take the law into their own hands and lynch Davis. And on the other hand, the cattlemen were just as adamant that Diamond Phil's life be protected.
Okay.
So afraid were the officials that Diamond Phil Jack might be lynched or rescued, either one, that at night they posted guards at roads leading into Albin, and crowds of men were not allowed to enter until daylight.
Now, this is kind of interesting, too, because the original building that supposedly was his jail cell is still there, right?
No.
No?
No.
I thought it was.
No, they've used rocks to build a kind of a little monument out in the middle of that park.
Oh, I thought the one building as you go through town on the right-hand side upstairs was where he was housed.
No, that's where the trial took place.
Ah.
That was where the trial. So you're right there.
I see.
Yes. So anyway, he became pretty popular with the children of the town. Boys were always talking to him through the window, and they brought their damaged baseballs to him, and with the ability of a professional, he would sew covers on their baseballs. When anyone's shoes became worn, they'd bring him over to him, and he would fix their shoes.
How long was he incarcerated up there?
I'm thinking it was about 4 years, off and on.
He was 4 years up there.
I believe it goes through that. And actually, my grandmother actually remembers seeing him in jail up there in Albion and said he was quite a good-looking...
Okay, now, wait a minute. Why didn't they move him, if he was up for murder charges, to the Boise State Penitentiary?
I just assumed this because the county seat was Albion, and so that's where everything took place.
Okay, pardon me. I'm sorry.
I'm really not sure.
Okay.
But like I say, he got to be pretty popular with the people, so the sheepmen came in and put up a 10-foot board fence around the jail.
Oh, boy.
So he could no longer talk to the boys through the window. Well, he was sentenced to be hanged several times, but each time his attorneys appealed his case to a higher court, and the sentence would be suspended. And several times on the day he was sentenced to be hung, a reprieve would come from the Board of Pardons just in time to prevent him from being hung.
Oh, boy.
Now, this to me is kind of one of the exciting parts of this story. One of the most famous rides was that of Willis Sears and Charlie Crist.
Right.
And I think you're familiar with the Sears family.
Yep.
So these two men were sent to the sheriff by the sheriff to Minidoka County in case Jack was given a stay of execution. Now, I'm going to repeat the words of Willis Sears. Here's what he said. Charlie and I took 3 saddle horses apiece and went to Minidoka the day before, leaving 2 horses at the Woods Ranch, 2 at the river crossing at Stars Ferry, and rode the other 2 onto Minidoka and stayed there. The next morning, I came down to the ferry so as to have the boat on the north side of the river, and Charlie was to wait for the message and bring it down with him. The message was received about 11 o'clock in the morning. Charlie was ready for it and rode as fast as possible to the ferry. We crossed to the south side where the horses were ready, and we soon started on the second lap and rode to the next stop, where we made the final trip up the canyon. The total time was a little more than 2 hours for the 30-mile ride.
Mm-hmm.
Although the sheriff could have hung Jack that morning at sunrise, he was hoping that the Board of Pardons would stay his execution, which they did. But due to the extreme tension that existed between the cattlemen and the sheepmen, the sheriff was just afraid that these guys might be attacked by the sheepmen and killed, bringing that stay of execution.
Yeah.
So now here's the strange thing. In November of 1900, Jeff Gray and J.E. Bowers confessed that they had murdered the sheep herder.
Oh, no, wait a minute. This is where the plot really thickens.
It does.
Where did these guys come from, and who were they, really?
Okay, these guys were working for the cattle companies.
Ah.
Okay, and again...
And it took 4 years to get this out?
It did, yeah. But they said, here's what they said. They said they had ridden up to the sheep camp, and that Bower was talking to Wilson and Cummings. They got into a heated argument, and the sheep herders knocked Bower over the double trees of the wagon and would have killed him had not Gray killed them first.
Okay, now, there's a bunch of questions here. What prompted these two guys to come out and give this information, I wonder?
You know, let me continue because there's some evidence that comes out that may implicate them.
I'm sorry.
And this may be why...
I'll tell you what, now's a good time for a commercial.
Yes.
Okay, and then you can tell me.
Okay.
I want to say thank you again to our wonderful friends at Mini-Cash Sales. Old Zacatech. He's going to be on the air with us on Thursday, as a matter of fact. I'm going to have him on the air. Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Upgrade your windows. Woo! Cold inside. Well, it won't be. You'll keep the cold air outside with Western Windows. You better believe it. And all your carpeting and your vinyl and, of course, the best of Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels. Oh, they're good. All of this and more. What an inventory of great things to help you at Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. They're open 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And now, back to the continuing saga of why did Diamondfield Jack linger in the jail at Albion?
Okay, so like I say, they told the story of what happened, but the sheepmen of the county took this kind of with a grain of salt and came to the conclusion that this was just a hoax to save Davis. Well, they went on making preparations to hang Diamondfield Jack.
Yeah.
So, however, it is generally believed today that Bower and Gray did kill the sheep herders because here's the evidence, Zeb. There was a corn cob pipe which was found under the front wheel of Wilson and Cummings sheep camp. This was misidentified as belonging to Bauer.
Ah.
So
he had to be there.
Yeah. So after the trials and appeals, Diamond Phil Jack was then actually did go to the state penitentiary in Boise for another 18 months.
Why?
Again, that's a good question because
if he was exonerated, why did he have to serve more time?
Well, that's a good question because he was still being punished for a crime he did not commit. And
boy, he had a good lawyer, didn't he?
He did. Well, the board consequently granted Jack Davis an unconditional pardon and restoration to citizenship in 1902. Now, this is where you usually say, okay, what happened after this?
I know what happened after this.
Okay, we're going to continue on.
All right.
Well, I'm just going to show you this book, which you have.
Yeah, I do.
This was given to us by Bert Stevenson.
Yep.
It's Diamond Phil by Max Black and is the most interesting, detail-oriented story of Diamond Phil.
Absolutely is.
And in here, they explain that they tried to have a horse run from where Diamond Phil was seen to where the scene of the crime took place, and it could not have happened. So they proved pretty inconclusively that he could not have shot the sheepherder.
And thus it also spawned a very historic and famous ride that occurred for many, many years here in the Magic Valley all the way to Jackpot, and that was the Diamond Field Jack ride, horseback ride, and it was furthered by a former real good friend of mine, passed away, and I really enjoyed this gentleman, Bob Harney from Twin Falls. He was really instrumental in keeping that ride alive.
Yeah. Well, so we'll continue with his story, which is equally fascinating. So in 1902, Diamond Phil quietly said goodbye to his loyal friends and left the area.
Can you blame him?
No. I mean, it's interesting that on leaving, he thanked Willis Sears, one of the two marathon horseback riders who made that famous 25-mile ride from Minidoka to Alben with a reprieve from the Board of Pardons that saved Jack from being hanged. So, but it's reported by the daughter of Sears, Mrs. Clayton Bryan of Burley, that Jack, in an attempt to show his appreciation, gave her father one of his two guns. And this was made with a remark by Jack. He said, "Here, take it. I shall never pack a gun again." Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's not true.
He continued, but he forgot that resolve. But okay, so now starts kind of another strange link in the life of this man. Now, he was overrated as a gunslinger, but he had a reputation, and events prove that he had other talents that were real. He wanted to get to Nevada, where a booming mine operation was then on, and near the action was his good friend John Sparks, who was the governor of the state.
Yep.
Now, he'll kind of come into play quite a bit during Diamond Phil's life, but so he was off to new adventures, and he to a recent opened mining area in Tonopah. Now, if you've been to Tonopah, Zeb,
I have. I spent 2 weeks there one night.
It is desolate.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so it must have been.
It's not going to be on a realtor's highlight reel.
No, it's not. But it must have been beginner's luck because many had already failed in their quest. But Jack, in his first attempt, struck it rich. Now, this event took place in the spring of 1903 when Jack Davis, prospecting in the hills near Goldfield, came upon a rich ledge of ore. Well, word soon spread about the town, about the strike, and as usual, a boom started in the vicinity district, and a town sprang up, and they actually called it Diamondfield in honor of him, this little boom town. And the growth was spectacular. By the end of 1904, it was really a rip-roaring mining camp, everything going on there that you'd expect in any kind of a mining find. So, but in an amazing short time, Jackson Lee Davis Diamondfield had risen from a man almost penniless to an individual worth a lot of money and influence.
Right.
His gunslinging name, earned or not, really had actually followed him to Nevada. So he was respected as a kind of a dangerous character, too.
One that you don't want to mess with.
Right. And he enjoyed bragging about his prowess with a six-gun. But what a change in the life of this man who was confined in a death cell in Alben, Idaho for so long on a double murder charge, and 2 years after his release, we find him wealthy, respected, a welcome visitor in the office of the Nevada governor.
Mm-hmm. How old was he at this point? He was still in his 40s, wasn't he?
I think he was still, fairly young guy still.
Yeah.
But anyway, in 1906 and 1907, labor trouble broke out in the mines around Goldfield. Now, between the workers and the mine owners. So there was kind of like a strike that was going on. The miners, of course, wanted more money,
right,
and the owners did not want to give them more money. Well, Governor Sparks was in trouble. Bloodshed had already started, making it necessary for him to ask for federal troops. But Jack kind of took it upon himself and felt like he needed more backing than just the U.S. Army. So he felt he was the one to step in and help the U.S. Army on this deal. So anyway, one incident reported in a Goldfield newspaper at the time tells of an incident that happened during the height of this labor dispute. The trouble started when a crowd gathered in front of Davis's office, his mining office. And following Jack's public support of the governor, the temper of this mob got worse and worse. Somebody threw a rock through the window of the building. Well, Mr. Davis, it says in the paper, became livid with rage, grabbing 2 6-shooters. He came rushing out of the office with both guns blazing. Now, here's about 200 men standing outside with guns and clubs and whatever. He steps outside his office with these 2 guns, and this crowd took off running.
They never accused him in any literature that I've ever read about Diamond Field Jack of being the smartest guy in the world.
Well, his reputation, I guess these guys said, okay, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Well, the gold boom...
Did he shoot anybody?
I don't believe he actually did. I'd have to go back through Max's book, and
okay.
I don't think that he did, but I'm not sure. But anyway, the gold boom in this part of Nevada kind of busted, and his own mine had deteriorated. The fortune that he'd built up, and we're talking millions of dollars back in the early 1900s. His real estate operations were being dissipated. Well, about this time, he decided to head south into Mexico and Arizona, Texas. He even went up into Montana. In fact, when he was up in Montana, he was at a bar, and a guy from this from the labor union approached him, and they got into an argument, and Jack actually got shot through the cheek.
Really?
And it took out a couple of his teeth.
Well, can you imagine?
So, and another time I know he got shot, I think, in the leg. So, his reputation followed him.
And his nickname was Lucky.
Lucky Diamond Field. Well, eventually he came back to the United States, and he kind of dropped out of sight. And it seems there's not...
so he lost his fortune.
Yeah,
right?
He lost everything. So there's no question that he ended up still back in Nevada in the 1920s.
Right.
The fortune he'd made in mining was either squandered or lost in bad investments. And it's known that as an old man in his 80s now, he lowered himself to survive by becoming a shill in one of the gambling establishments in Las Vegas.
Really?
Which a shill, of course, is somebody who sits there and gambles with the money from the gambling establishment.
Right.
So, but here we are, December 1948. Jack Davis, while attempting to cross the street in one of the busy intersections of Las Vegas, was hit by a taxicab. The man who had escaped hanging in Idaho for at least 2 times had been shot at, along with later threats of assassination, died with his boots on. Diamond Field perished from complications following this accident in Las Vegas, January 2nd, 1949. Friends actually had to take up a collection and buried this colorful guy.
Where was he buried? I don't think they buried him in Las Vegas, did they? For some reason, I thought they took him to another location.
I'm not sure about that. I would have to look back in this book.
Yeah, I'll have to go back through that, too, because I honestly don't think he's buried in Vegas.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to show you somebody that was in his life a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that was...
Diamond Tooth Lil.
Diamond Tooth Lil.
And
she looks kind of like my grandma.
She is a very nice...
matronly
looking, very nice looking lady who...
why did she get the name Diamond Tooth? Did she have something bright and shiny in the front there?
She did. She had a diamond and what else? I think it was just a diamond she had put in that tooth.
Really?
Yeah.
What did she do for a living?
She was an entertainer.
I see. You're avoiding my question, but that's okay.
And she actually was sometimes she was actually up in Silver City up here in Idaho.
A traveling girl.
Traveling, yes, to see the world.
I love to see your face turn red.
But she was up in Virginia City, Nevada City.
I'll be darned. Can you imagine?
But her, the plan was she was supposed to meet up with Diamond Field in Las Vegas.
I see.
And I think it was just more of like a friendship type thing. They'd known each other off and on.
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say. But in fact, it says that they did have a lot to talk about regarding their lives. But
now, was she at the funeral?
You know, that's a good question, too, and I don't know.
Who got the estate? Was there anything left?
There was nothing left.
Nothing left.
No. So,
wow.
Like I say, friends had to take up a donation to bury the guy.
So he died a pauper then.
So that makes me think that maybe he was buried in Vegas somewhere.
Yeah.
As cheaply as they possibly could. But this book, this Max Black, and you've read the book.
Yep, got it right over there.
He's the one that did the research and found the actual bullet. Here, 100 years later, or
really?
Whatever, he went up and found one of the bullets that had hit a saddle, and he actually thinks he found the gun that those guys used that was thrown away and found, and ended up in Boise.
There is so much to this story, and I'm not trying to disavow anything of that book by any means, but really, you got to admit, it's kind of like the Billy the Kid theory. You don't really know. You know what I mean?
And there's some that theorize that he was killed in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy.
Yeah.
You know, Bolivia or not Bolivia.
Right.
And many, many reports, of which I've got a book on that one of the sisters said that years later, she had coffee and breakfast with Butch Cassidy in New York City.
Well, and there's a couple of other longtime friends that say that they saw him as well.
Yeah. You did it again, Dr. History. You piqued our interest.
Diamond Field, what a fascinating story.
Thank you.
Get this book by Max Black.
It's a good book.
Diamond Field.
Very good book. Well, now you can look forward to a very nice, smooth ride back to Burley on Highway 30.
Slow ride.
Very slow. Dr. History brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew with everything you need, from gates and panels to shingles to lumber to windows. It's all there with Minnecasia Sales. Stop in and see them today, and we say thank you to them for sponsoring Dr. History. What about next week?
Oh, I don't know.
I ask you that every week.
Every time, and I always say, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got to do some Christmas spots, and you see yourself out of the house, and next week the door will be open, Ruby will be locked up, and you can come back and tell us another story.
You have a good day, Zeb.
God bless you. Dr. History right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Good guy. Hey, Merry Christmas wishes from Joe Taylor. My friend Joe Taylor. I'll tell you what, he's with Carey and Adams Realtors. He knows real estate. One call does it all to Joe, 678-9400. Joe Taylor wishing you and yours a Merry Christmas, along with K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Burley. K&R Rental has it all, from pivots to tractors, lawn and garden equipment, forklifts, everything at K&R Rental, wishing you Merry Christmas. And our friends at Haskin Insurance Service, these are nice people, and they're located at 629 Fremont Street in Rupert, and all the folks over there like to wish their customers and everybody in Magic Valley a very safe Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. There you go. We're going to send it over to our main studios, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't you go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. We're on the home stretch right now, like Secretariat, heading for the finish line, and with me on the telephone is one of my dear friends and really one of my favorite guests from the Institute of Energy Research, a very knowledgeable man that's going to break down exactly what Obama has promised to the world and what he's going to do to pay for it. In other words, take it out of our billfolds with the Climate Summit. Here is Mr. Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb.
You know, Dan, I've been following everything I could regarding what's going on with the Paris Climate Summit, and I listened to as much as I could early this morning about the news conference with Obama and how he said we're going to create a new low-carbon economy and how he's going to create a climate fund to help underprivileged countries, which we're going to pay for. You, with your expertise, Dan Kish, tell us, what is this going to end up costing you and me and common Joe citizen?
Well, Zeb, I think we're looking at the biggest, bank heist in history when it comes down to this stuff. What they're really talking about is it's not just coming out of our paychecks. It'll be coming out of our utility bills. It'll be coming out what they plan for us in terms of our energy costs in general. I know you're really feeling that global warming up there in Twin Falls today.
Yeah, right now currently it's about 9 degrees.
Yeah. Well, maybe the thing to do would be to bring some of those know-it-alls back from Paris to see what it's really like out in the real world. Because you can bet they've got the temperature turned up to whatever they wanted at their places. They all flew in on their jets. This is the biggest. The reason we have been just inundated with everything from the culture to the commercials to the companies to the White House to the you name it is because there's a huge amount of money at stake here. What they're talking about is literally directing our energy policy from Washington and from other capitals around the world, and they've run out of other people's money to spend, so they need this new source of money, and this is what it's all about, Zeb. Well, they're telling you that if you don't repent, you will, the earth's going to perish. It's religious-like. It's taken on cult proportions for people, frankly, who show no interest in belief in power higher than themselves, but somehow believe that that they can control the climate because of their good intentions, and it's very, very dangerous. It's probably unprecedented in terms of its pure gall for reaching for power and money from just average Americans and average people, not only here but around the world as well.
You know, Dan, I got to admit, and I'm proud of it, I'm a Christian. And when I see people like Obama and his ideology trying to destabilize God and God's nature and try to have man control the thermostat and say that this is what we're going to do to make the planet colder, I am incensed. Because this, to me, is one of the major control issues forever in the world. And I fear what this man and his ideology are going to cause to happen to the rest of the population.
Well, let's face it, Zeb. I mean, we can just talk turkey. It was just Thanksgiving. The fact of the matter is, the green left here and around the world has been out to convince people that there is no higher power than there is no God.
Yeah.
In essence, on earth. They've driven them from the schools. They've driven discussion. They broached no discussion of that whatsoever, and yet they had to have something to replace it in order for their adherents to follow it. And so this has become their mantra, in essence. It's become their religion. It's their theology. It's the theology of turn over the power to the smart people and their high priests who are the government scientists who will somehow save us here on earth in this heaven that they have here on earth planned for us, which I think in many people's view would be more like a hell, where the poorest among us suffer, where the powerful fly off in jets and tell the rest of us to take the bus. They spend money that doesn't belong to them, worshiping themselves, in essence, in huge rooms, giving speeches to one another. This is
it's a strange time in our nation's history, Zeb.
Dan, let me ask you this. When you listen to the rhetoric of this man and the general attitude and personality of this climate summit, what are we going to see and or feel first from this meeting? What do you think is going to be done in kind of a chronological order as to what he's going to do?
Yeah, well, he doesn't want this to be a treaty because he knows he doesn't have the votes to have a treaty passed by the Senate. So he's been very, very careful to say that there will be no binding agreement. But what he will do is, all of this regulations and things that he's done with his pen and his phone that he's so proud of that are driving up the cost of energy for all of us, he wants to, in essence, memorialize those by justifying them because we've agreed to something, or he's agreed. He himself has agreed to these conditions for the United States, and therefore make the argument with his lawyers, who are paid for by all of us, in the courts, that we must keep these laws on the books and they can't be changed, because to change them would mean we'd be going back on our obligations in the agreement. So what that means is much more expensive electricity. Remember, he who's promised us skyrocketing electricity prices, who said that we should be paying the price of gasoline and diesel that they do in Europe. These are the sorts of things that he has in mind. And so that means more expensive energy for everyone. The rich people will be able to afford it. The working and poor will just have to somehow adjust their lives accordingly. They don't want us driving pickup trucks. They want us driving, vehicles that they can dodge better in their limousines, Zeb. Across the board, everything from the jobs we have to the ability to pump water to feed the nation with our agriculture, all of these things will be affected because it will cascade throughout the entire economy in terms of him pushing higher energy prices on us, justified by this agreement that he'll claim we have with the rest of the world.
All right, we have a caller with a question, Dan, but I'm going to ask you this, and just keep this in the back of your mind to respond in just a moment. Can Congress stop him? And we'll take the call, and you can respond to the caller first. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Well, last Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, Obama instituted executive orders, 2,000 new regulations on the American people and business person. And if the global warming stuff isn't bad enough, I mean, it just never ends. I'll hang up.
Dan, you want to respond to that caller? He's right. It never ends.
No, and it's not going to end ultimately until this is why elections have consequences, Zeb. The American people twice throughout this country, led by a media that supported him like nobody's business, gave this president the power, which in a lot of cases it turns out he's abusing, but he's using to the until he's stopped by the courts to do what he wants to reshape to fundamentally transform the United States, just as he promised. When we all think back on it, it isn't as though he didn't give us clues that this was happening. It's that people didn't really understand just exactly what was happening, and we're now suffering the consequences.
Okay, now I'll go back to my question prior to the call. Can Congress, or will Congress, show any backbone and stand up to this insidious man and this climate program?
That is the question of the day. I know that I will say this, Zeb, I think they're trying harder now. They're looking for ways to intervene. They have passed, for example, using a provision that allows the Senate and the House to pass with simple majorities, not the super majorities typically, to block his carbon dioxide regulations that are going to shut down all our coal plants. And I believe that is going to be headed to the president's desk. There will be a vote later this week. The president will veto it, but they are trying
with the limited tools that they have to push back on this, because the costs are beginning. People are beginning to complain throughout the country about the consequences of this, which are going to be felt for a long time, but they're beginning to be felt in hard ways. People are seeing it in their bills, Zeb.
Dan, let me ask you this about the countries. He made a statement the other night, and again today in that press conference, about the funding, billions with a B, billions and billions of dollars going to other countries. And we're going to be the beneficiaries of providing that money to these countries, but who's going to watch the money? Who's going to make sure that it goes for the right case? Who's going to make sure that it isn't squandered? Tell me that.
Well, first of all, Zeb, under our Constitution, the president doesn't have the money, the capability of spending money unless Congress gives it to him or he takes it out of different accounts. And one of the things that Congress is trying to do is to block the expenditure of these monies that he's promising over in Paris. He's already committed this to $3 billion. There's a fund that is supposed to be set up as part of this deal, which would cost $100 billion per year, start out at $100 billion per year. You know which country is going to pay the most of that. And every year, $100 billion handed out to countries, to leaders of developing countries, theoretically to help their people develop their economies. But you know what's going to happen with it, Zeb. The same thing that happens when you give these crooks money anytime. It'll go into Swiss bank accounts. The people will suffer in, poor African nations and Asian nations while their leaders get rich, because that's the way the world works, unfortunately. They would have us believe something different. Ultimately, it's Congress that's going to have to spend this money, and Congress so far has been saying, you're not going to get that money, Mr. President. You're not going to commit us. Our people don't need to be taking more out of their pockets to pursue your vanity in Paris.
Yeah. Dan, let's bring this real close to home and closer to my billfold and yours. We're looking at gas prices right now, and I'll just round it off and say that we're looking at gas at maybe about $2.50 a gallon. What do you look for in the near term and the long term for people trying to get up, go to work, earn a living? How much is it going to cost them more in the near future?
Well, luckily, Zeb, they won't be able to drive up the cost of this immediately. What they're ultimately going to do is come back with a request for something called a carbon tax. There's a lot of money in Wall Street. There's a lot of money out of these Tom Steyer and the like. The fellow that spent $75 million on the last election is going to spend another $100 million this time. Some of these folks who stand to get very rich are pushing, and they've hired lobbyists, and they have phony organizations to protect the earth, supposedly that will be pushing for this carbon tax. And what ultimately they seek there is for every time you use energy of any kind, there'll be a tax on it. And if you make it $1 a ton of carbon, the price of gasoline goes up a cent, and accordingly, if it's $50, which is what they'd like to have, it'd be an extra 50 cents on the price of gasoline. It would make your heating bills go up. It would make your everything, and the sky's the limit when it comes to Washington politicians wanting to get their hands on more money. Zeb, you know how that works.
Right now, Dan, final thought, but we're looking at a real crisis and a growing cancer with terrorism all around the world, with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. That's the real concern that people have right now, terrorism. And it's not the stupidity of climate change. We are being led by an ideologue that's going to bring us to the road to ruin. Why can't the American people stand up? Why can't they stop this?
Well, Zeb, here's the good news. The good news is the good Lord has blessed this country, and despite the fact that sometimes it seems like we've taken our leave of our senses, the fact of the matter is most Americans are pretty common sense, and they understand these things. And the past month's events, as it relates to this, with the terrible travesty of terrorism rearing its head in Paris, with the president trying to bring in more people when he can't even screen them, And then him saying that somehow it's a rebuke to terrorism for leaders to fly in private jets to meet. People get the sense that there's something wrong. There's a lot of concern in the United States that we're not only headed in the wrong direction, but we are headed in a vastly wrong direction for a country of free people. Who believe in charting their own destiny as opposed to being dictated from the top. And that is beginning to rear its head across the country, Zeb. I really believe that. Let's all pray and hope for the best here. But I don't think this is lost on people, that something is deathly wrong in the United States right now with the current direction we're headed.
Absolutely. Dear friend and a great friend of this program, Dan Kish with the Institute for Energy Research. God bless you, and may I be one of the first, I hope, to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Dan, thank you for your insight this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Zeb. Thank you. God bless you and your listeners, and a Merry Christmas to you as well.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Nobody tells it better than Dan from the Institute of Energy Research. The blatant stupidity and blatant misuse of power by this President Obama with his climate change agenda, the hunger that it's going to cause, the poverty that it's going to cause, and the absolute robbing our pocketbooks to fund this idiocy is going to be enormous. And I condemn this man and this administration for their lunacy. We've got many, many more problems to take care of, many more serious problems. And this man is only bent on one 7-letter word, and that's control. And I despise him for it. It's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, and they, of course, are your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, and they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Everything they sell is guaranteed, and everything they sell is delicious. Right now, on behalf of Scarrows Meats, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this very first day of December. And yes, still going to be cold today. Looking at partly cloudy skies, high of 21 tonight, low of 3. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, slightly breezy, high of 30 with an overnight low of 15. For Thursday, could be a heat wave, mostly cloudy, high of 40. And then for Friday, partly cloudy and 38. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
She does a great job on that weather, and I appreciate it. Brought to you this hour by our dear friends, Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, and that's, of course, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Good. You better believe it. Don't forget, Denny's Old Fashioned Merry Christmas is going to be at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley on Wednesday, December 16th. I'm going to be moving over there and sitting in a booth and doing the whole program over there. Zeb at the Ranch live from 8 in the morning until 11. We're going to have Christmas carolers from the Burley High School Choir. We're going to have door prizes. We're going to have Santa Claus. We're going to have Ken Mort singing. We're going to have Loot in the Boot to help the needy families. Don't miss it. That's coming up on December 16th, Wednesday morning, 8:06 at Denny's in Burley at 611 Overland. Please come out and support all the Christmas fun. By the way, I also want to remind you again about our great major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. You know, we just had a taste of winter this last weekend, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more to chew on, so be sure and check out your traction tires, all the different tread designs, the studded tires, the snow wheels, the tire chains, all of this and more at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, they've got the best in brake service and front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more, but all comes down to service. The greatest in service with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Let's see, what else have I got cooking here? I also want to remind you that during the course of the program, you've heard me say you're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. Wheels, are you by your microphone there for a minute?
I am, sir.
That a boy. Have you got queued up, possibly and ready to go, a little Christmas song? I've got an appointment that I have to go to, and I was just wondering, I think it's time we played a little Christmas song, and you can run that out to the end of the program, and I'll just extend to everybody Merry Christmas and the very best, and remember, the way things were, the way things ought to be. Zeb at the Ranch, and we'll be back here again tomorrow morning at 8:06. Wheels, if you would please, Merry Christmas, everybody.